Set upon two towering titans, the Bionis and the Mechonis, a young man named Shulk lives a quiet life at his home of Colony 9. However, his life is forever changed when his home is attacked by the mechanical forces of the Mechonis. Armed with only the Monado, an ancient weapon that only he can wield, and the only thing able to take care of the forces of the Mechonis, Shulk sets out on a mission to save the citizens of the Bionis and destroy the Mechon forever. Along with his best friend Rhine and others he meets on his journey, Shulk travels the breadth of the Bionis to reach Mechonis and defeat the villainous force that lies within. Xenoblade Chronicles was originally released in 2010 in Japan for the Wii and wouldn't get an American release until 2012 thanks to a grassroots campaign by a bunch of dedicated fans that wanted to see 3 JRPGs on the Wii that were exclusive to Japan brought over to the States. And thanks to that successful campaign, we were able to get 3 very distinct JRPGs, and the best of all of them was, of course, Xenoblade Chronicles.
Sorry I kept you waiting.
This is a game that really speaks to me on a lot of different levels. I love the characters, the world, and the themes in particular, and the ideas brought about by its creator, Tetsuya Takahashi, are so well crafted that it is one of the most unique stories that I have ever seen in a video game, and it really resonates with me on a very deeply personal level, which is why I think that it's perfect to say that this is one of my favorite video games that I have ever played. Now, before we get into some of the nitty-gritty, I do want to at least give an overview of the things that I really love about this game. And the first thing that I will mention is the open world aspect. These are large, sprawling maps that are filled to the brim with monsters and interesting details and side characters and side quests, and there is just a lot here. And it's insane to me that this originally was on the Wii and was able to run it all. Now, the world that this game has is not groundbreaking anymore. In fact, some of the Xenoblade Chronicles games have far exceeded what was done in this original game, and games like Breath of the Wild just blow this game's world out of the water. But what is here is a great stepping stone for what could be continued later on in later entries, and that is what's so great. What's also really great are the characters. You get to know these people as you go along throughout the story. You understand their wants, their dreams, their ambitions, and their heartache. And there is a lot of pain in this story. A lot of trying to understand oneself. And that is very self-reflecting in a way that I think really works, especially with the character of Shulk, who is such a great protagonist for this story. His journey throughout the entirety of the 60-some hours that it took to beat this game was well worth it. And the story and themes should not be disregarded. These are incredible, and in fact, it really speaks to me on a huge level because the things that Xenoblade Chronicles is interested in telling are the things that I am interested in. I'm interested in religion and philosophy, and that is what this is all an amalgamation of. And it's all thanks in part to its creator, Tetsuya Takahashi. Now, if you don't know who Tetsuya Takahashi is, he is the co-founder of Monolithsoft, who is responsible for the Xenoblade Chronicles franchise, as well as Xenosaga. But he got his start working basically with Square. He had some time before then, but it was at Square where he really came into his own, working on projects such as Chrono Trigger before eventually getting his own game, Xenogears, which combines all of the things that he and his wife, Soria Saga, were interested in, such as Gnosticism, Freudian psychology, psychoanalysis, and philosophy, particularly of the works of Friedrich Nietzsche. And it's these ideas that they all took together to combine into what became Xenogears, and then would eventually be added on to and explored farther in Xenosaga, which is the spiritual successor of Xenogears after Tetsuya Takahashi left Square. And Xenoblade Chronicles is the next evolution of Xenogears and Xenosaga. In fact, it takes the essence of those unruly ideas that kind of put Xenosaga and Xenogears into a bit of a crunch, because there was so much ambition. The story was so large. The themes and the ideas were so much to handle that it became very convoluted. The stories were very complex. And Xenoblade Chronicles takes those ideas and simplifies them down to a way that's more digestible, I believe, for a regular video game audience. You don't have to know the works of Friedrich Nietzsche or anything to do with psychology or philosophy to understand this. But the ideas are still there. They're just not necessarily in the forefront. But the one thing that is still there is its Gnostic roots. Now, for those that don't understand at all what I'm talking about, what exactly is Gnosticism? Gnosticism was a form of early Christianity by several different sects of the church that believed that the God of the Old Testament and the God of the New Testament are completely separate entities. There is the monad, who is above everything. It's basically the unseeable God. And then you have the demiurge, who is the creator of the physical world. The demiurge in Gnosticism is the God of the Old Testament, the God that creates the world, places Adam and Eve in the garden, and the serpent, in this sense, is actually Christ, who gives them the knowledge to escape their prison and come down to the world. And it's when Jesus comes back, he is teaching them about the unseeable God, the monad, the God of love, and fighting against the demiurge. And that's more or less a small little crash course of Gnosticism. I've read a little bit of it. I've read a few books, but I am by far not an expert. But this is something that Xenoblade Chronicles does very well. It focuses in on these ideas in particular. In fact, the main weapon of the game is called the Monado, which is obviously a reference to the monad, and you have the character of Alvis, who is basically the monad from Gnostic belief, and then the demiurge being our villain Zanza. And you have these ideas that you don't need to know, but the story is so well told that you don't need to know these Gnostic ideas to engage with this story. But it does bring a whole lot more meaning when you do, which is great. It's great that you can have a game where you can sit down, play it, and enjoy it. And then, if you're willing to, you can do a little bit of research and find a whole lot more meaning there. Something also that is great with this game is the gameplay. As I said, these worlds are massive. These maps are insane. They are filled with enemies to fight, quests to take part in, and they're just so expansive and beautiful to look at, despite the fact that some of the image quality on the Switch for these maps is not the best and would be improved with later entries. But the maps are incredible. There's a lot of quests for you to do. Although I will say that despite the fact that there are so many quests in this game, 400 some in fact, they are kind of meandering after a while, and they do feel like busy work, and they do have stories along with them, but I eventually found myself kind of being disengaged by them and kind of just pressing A until I could get the quest accepted, and then I could just go on my way, because it's just very wordy and just not the most interesting to me. And I do hate that. And later on in later entries, I think the quest design becomes a whole lot more interesting and a little bit more involved. Because you will be doing a whole lot of fighting throughout this entire game. There's not too much in the way of other diversions, because when it comes to quest design, it's mainly you collecting something, or killing something to collect something. It's basically that rinse and repeat, and you do this a lot. And if I did have one criticism with the game, it is with those quests, because it bloats the runtime a lot. As I said, this is like a 60-hour game, and as you are playing it, you realize you kind of need to do these quests so that you can disregard having to grind, so that you can be the appropriate level you need to be by the end of the game. And that is kind of frustrating. I feel like in a game, you should just play the game naturally to be the level that you need to be at the end of the game. And Xenoblade Chronicles doesn't really do that. But combat is still a lot of fun. This game uses the sword art system, which is kind of like a MMO. You have a bunch of commands at the bottom of the screen that you can use to your advantage, and you can switch these out with your characters to make them be more of a tank or a buffer and just a straight-on attacker. You can have your characters be, aggroing or not at all. And there's a lot of stuff to play around with. There's a lot of customization with armor types, gaining armor, making your own, and that is where the RPG elements really shine in these moments. You can make your characters look really, really cool. You can also do fan service if you so wish, but it's not very blatant. It's not obnoxious to that point. Also, a system that the game has that I really didn't delve a lot into, because it does take a lot of time and dedication, and you will have to go through multiple playthroughs to fully experience this, and that is the heart-to-heart conversations that you can have between main characters, where they can sit down, have a conversation with each other, and their bonds will grow. This is a great way of doing character development that wasn't available in the main story itself, and helps with certain characters that are not as thematically strong as others really stand out. These conversations are great and a lot of fun. But the stuff that I love the most in Xenoblade Chronicles is its story and its themes. Themes that really resonate with me about free will and trying to control one's fate. The characters in this game start out on a path of revenge, and by the end, they are taking on a god to save their world, to make it a world where we as human beings can walk to the future. We can walk hand in hand together and not be at the whims of a benevolent god. And that is a powerful story in my eyes, and something that Tetsuya Takahashi has done very well in the past with Xenogears, and it's expertly done here. Xenoblade Chronicles is best when it focuses on its themes to tell a compelling story about survival in this very harsh world. It also has an extremely unique setting in the form of living on these two giant titans set in an endless ocean. That is so interesting to me. The characters are also all very likable and lovable, and you just end up really caring for them by the end. There's not one character that I think really feels like a weak link, except for maybe the character Ricky, who I didn't find as annoying as some people might. But I can understand in some ways, especially when it comes to his voice. But no, at the end of the day, Xenoblade Chronicles is a masterful game. It has moments that are kind of dated, and the gameplay has been improved as the series has gone along, but I still think out of the entire Xenoblade Chronicles series that this is the best one, has the best story, deals with the best themes, and really resonates with me on a personal level. And that is why it is one of my favorite games of all time. So anyway, with all of that said, I'm going to give Xenoblade Chronicles a 10 out of 10. Well guys, I hope you enjoyed this review. I had been wanting to do some more game reviews, and I have a few on my backlog to do that I'm excited to share with you. But I really wanted to share my thoughts with this game because I absolutely loved it, and I just recently replayed it, and I just had to share my thoughts with you. And hopefully I can get some people out there to maybe try this or have a conversation with them about the ideas and themes that are present in this game, because they really are worth talking about. But anyway, guys, that is all I got for you. So as always, don't forget to like, comment, and subscribe to the channel, and stay positive.